Yeah, hi all. This is me, Ankit Jain. Welcome to another session of Market Visit Ankit Jain. So this is me, Ankit Jain. I'm a technical architect at an MNC. I'm 18X certified. I'm active in Salesforce events. This is my LinkedIn URL. Feel free to connect with me. And for future session, either you can connect with me or you can join the WhatsApp group as well. Also, there's a YouTube channel by the name Market Visit Ankit Jain. So you can view the recordings of previous sessions as well. And if you want to have a one-to-one session with me, you can book the slot on TopMate as well. So today we'll be discussing Salesforce integration patterns. See, the very first question that comes to my mind is when we're talking about integration patterns, let's break it into two parts. One is like Salesforce integration, and second is integration patterns. So why do we so today in our agenda we'll be covering like why do we need integration, what are different integration patterns, and then we'll go over those items in detail. So why do we need integration? So the only reason we do integration is like one product doesn't fit all the requirements. For few things, Salesforce is good. For few things, SAP is good or other external systems are good. So, but as a company, I would want like I get the best features for all the stuff. Like I want like the best thing for CRM as well. I want the best thing for doing order processing as well. So I utilize the best features for all of it, and then I exchange means to make sure like I get the best out of all of these. I need to do the data exchange between these systems, and this data exchange is called integration. Please note, when we talk about integration, like integration and just doing one-time migration is different stuff. One-time migration is like you have a legacy system, you're replacing it with another system, so you have to do one-time activity, and that will not be termed as any integration requirement. That would be called as a data activity. Just to set the context, because many times people get confused between these two terminologies. So that's why I wanted to get it clarified. Next is around the integration patterns. See, if I have to do a communication between Salesforce and other systems, there are various ways. One such way is request and reply. What request and reply says is like, I get the response in real time. When if I hit an API, I will be able to get that response within the time. Like for synchronous Apex, the time is 10 seconds. Within say, 10 seconds, if the API I'm hitting in and I'm able to get that response, I will call it request and reply. I will tell you the problem with this approach. The problem is like the user would remain blocked for till that time the response comes back. So the means the user experience is affected due to that. But in few scenarios, we have to actually do that. So we use this request and reply scenario. There is a practical example as well. See, the most common example is like address verification. Like, see, always like if there's a form and I enter to make sure like the data is and it is a verified address. Like normally what happens is like you enter the address and then we get that address verified by Google. We'll show it in action actually. That would make it much more interactive and it will be much more, you will be able to get much more clarity around it. So this is another example. Like I have this controller. I have made it like request reply example, and I have a method like perform call out. Like where I have mentioned one of the endpoint, like it's a freely available endpoint. I click means I create the HTTP request. I set the endpoint. I set the method and create the HTTP request, and then I hit it. And after getting that, I print the system.debug that response. Now it's compulsory for me that this response should be returned in the real time. For a while, let's assume like we have an LWC component where I will be doing this perform call out, calling this method. So since the response is returned in real time, it will be this will be turned as request and reply. because you are hitting that and you are receiving an acknowledgement like, yes, this response means I got the response and it's like working for me. Any other example means this is like example from my side. If you have any other example or you want to relate it to your actual requirements, you can feel free to ask those questions related to that. Or are we good? If there is any question, then feel free to ask.
Ankit, I have one question. How I know when to use inbound and outbound integration? For inbound integration, what thing we need, and for outbound integration, what thing we need?
See, if you need the data from another system,
Hmm.
like suppose like this is an example of address verification.
Hmm.
So what will happen is I will be entering the data inside the Salesforce, right?
Hmm.
And that will be sent to Google or any other address verification services.
Hmm.
So this would be an outbound call. And as a result of that, what I will be receiving is the like response
Hmm.
that this address is verified or not. Inbound integration is like you are exposing a service. Like suppose there's some orders in external system, like you created some or your orders are created in the Salesforce and you send those to say SAP and where those are fulfilled. And now after fulfillment, you again want to send this information inside of Salesforce. So that would be an inbound call because the information is updated in Salesforce by the external system.
Okay.
For doing the inbound integration, we have the most common thing we do is like using the, if we need a real-time scenario, then we expose a REST service, or we can go with the native APIs as well. We have the bulk API, but prerequisite would be like you would need to have a connected app inside of Salesforce to make the Salesforce understand that the external system is not harmful, and it is okay to let it allow you means to allow it to do the modification of Salesforce data. This is for inbound. If I have to hit a API, it means I have to do a call out like here in this regards, like do the address verification and send that information from Salesforce to another system. That I will call it as a call out. So here the other system will give me either the API key or it might be possible like they have means it that API is freely available or it is passing this what do you say, this API key or some client ID, client secret that you would need because if you have to update it in the another system. So that's the practical example of that. I hope I did make some sense, or if you need, like I can explain that again.
And I understand.
Yeah. So this, I think this one, everybody has kind of noticed that one out
Hmm.
around the address verification or even the phone number validations also. Like some people actually check that want to have like the data is quite valid, then only it's saved.
Okay.
So we need a like in our regular website, assume like you have a normal registration form or you have like a normal lead creation form, like where you have a form saying like contact us, where you enter the details like my this is the name, this is the email address. So at that time itself, like you get an indication like this address is verified, this phone number is actually valid. Because in theory, like using the regex patterns, it might be like the syntax is right, but the data is actually not right. So to have a further checks, like some companies actually deploy these address verification and mobile verification services, and we that gets validated on the go, so that incorrect data is not saved inside of Salesforce. Another example of that is around the ship means calculation around the shipping. Like the shipping actually happens in the external system. So when we are actually finalizing an order, like we want that shipping rates are get taken from the server in real time, and then that information is fed while we are finalizing that order, that the data is accurate. I think the better example will that to relate would be this address verification. This one seems a little more complicated. Any questions so far?
No.
If any questions, then please let me know. So I think we are done from the request and reply perspective. The catch is two. The response should be available within 10 seconds. Also, like one more catch is like sometimes you would be asked to do an integration. So, and suppose like you want to have, means the scenario is like you have this Apex controller where you have to do that API calling. Like suppose I have to hit this API. Then in some scenarios, like in my scenario, like in my previous projects, there was a scenario around like updating the Okta groups.
Mm.
Means Okta is a user management kind of mechanism, like similar to your Azure directory. It's using for provisioning, deprovisioning. So the and after there were various groups, so those have to be updated. So here the catch was like we double verified with the Okta team, like whether the response will be available in real time or not. Because if by chance the response is not available in within 10 seconds, you will get a callout exception. So whatever is the API, you double check with the vendor, like it would the response I will be getting within 10 seconds or not, because otherwise my system would break. Also, it can be overcome by like talking to the business and understanding the requirements, like whether it's needed on the real time or we can go with a synchronous way, or the next pattern that we're talking about, like this fire and forget. So the difference between this request and reply and fire and forget is like I get the request and reply, the user is blocked until I get the API response. And in fire and forget, I don't really care. Like from my side, I've set the request. When it would be fulfilled, I'm not user is not blocked during that duration. I can play around the website. I can do whatever I want. Here, normally the response means the limit is around 60 seconds. Within 60 seconds, the response should be coming up. So the examples are your platform events, your CDC change data capture, or callouts using those future methods as well, or callouts through any other mechanism. So I have an example for platform event to demonstrate the same. One second. So here we have like after creating an order, order event, different platform event that is to be created, and means whenever we have like a order is a custom event is created, then this code has to execute and create a task. So this is an example of your, no, actually, the logic is once this platform event is fired, that response user is not at all blocked. It works completely in the background. Let me just see like if I can get another example for you. So another example we have for us in the means and forget like we were talking about the platform event. So this notification is a custom platform event that I have created in. So now what I have done is like I've created that instance and three event bus publish I've called it. So sometimes what happens is like we want to like in some scenarios around like exception if you have unhandled exceptions, uh, the best way of handling that or logging those is using creating means publishing the platform events for those, and then on the platform events trigger creating the log records or log objects records, I would say. So in that scenario, like this notification, that insertion of this platform event would run in a separate thread. and it won't be disturbed by whatever has happened. Like if the transaction has failed, like the records are not means there's exception, then also nothing would happen. It would run independently since it's a fire and forget. It wouldn't care. Once it's fired, you can't stop it at all. Similarly, for like I have another example of the callouts as well. Like the same example, like if I just add like at the rate future callout equal to true, and then call it, it would run as asynchronously. So now if I run it, notice the logs. You will receive two, you will see two logs. See, one was the anonymous regular one, and another one that the separate thread was around the future method. So here this thread would run independently. It would wait for 60 seconds until the response means it's executed. Okay, sorry, my bad. I forgot to write callout equal to true. That's the reason it's no, it would run successfully. Once I was not able to save it, it's still saving. Sometimes the save process also takes some time, so you have to check like whether it's saved or not. We can have a look on this. It's the older one again. Let me just clear all the logs. See, this was running your asynchronous thread and this is your synchronous thread. So that is the difference between this fire and forget and request and reply. Callouts from wherever you do, it's behave the same way. No difference in that. But a practical example would be like suppose I have to send a confirmation email. Like suppose I have received a means after customer has completed a purchase. I don't have to wait means wait for the customer to means I don't want the customer to wait that he is blocked until the email has been sent. I can send that email as simple as like let it happen at a later few seconds later as well. It's no harm. So this is a very common example of your fire and forget. Any questions so far?
No.
Yeah. So this is around the our fire and forget. So another topic that is closely associated with this is around CDC and platform events. CDC is like your change data capture. It's a declarative. The advantage is like CDC is purely declarative. Like you have the events like whenever that event is being changed, means a record is being changed automatically. The if you enable the change data capture, then you will get like the what are the different fields that have been changed. You get those records, and the other person like other external system can subscribe to those, and the integration could be happening without doing anything. Just you have to enable change data capture in your org. this is more declarative approach. CDC, change data capture, and platform events is a little bit sophisticated. CDC would be get called every time whenever there is a modification. Platform event you can publish like whenever you want. It's like you have a control over that. So this I wanted to cover. Next use case is around your batch data synchronization. As the name suggests, batch data means it's a bulk data. So if I have to copy one information from Salesforce to another system, then I use this. So like if I have to copy information from like say uh, SAP system to Salesforce, then I can use the bulk API to insert those records. So this is one example, or either you can use the middleware as well. Like middleware is the best thing to do, like if you have multiple integrations. Another example is like updating the information. Like suppose you have two systems. In one you have the payment, like you have like a transaction processing, or your payment processing is happening in another external system. And your CRM you have like the user information, like the person's information. So you would want to show in the data in CRM like how many transactions were happening in that external system. So what you can do is like you can copy those aggregated data from payment external system into the Salesforce. So this could be an example of batch data synchronization, where there's like a large amount of data that has been moving from Salesforce to an external system. Large amount of data is moving in from one system to another. So one other example, like sometimes what we do is like we have like a batch class, so in that we make allow callout equal to true, and we hit that one. Although it's like we can do that, but we it said like middleware is much more better than that. So this is around your batch data synchronization. So like we'll go over one example over batch data, like how does that actually work out?
When we say middleware, you're talking about Heroku?
No, middleware is like your MuleSoft, or you can say uh, Tailend as well. So there are multiple middlewares that are available in the market. Most popular is MuleSoft.
So, Ankit, how I know when to use what? Like we have MuleSoft and Heroku and the other tool, but how
No,
I
no,
know?
Heroku is entirely different. Heroku is like you want
I
an entire custom development, like you don't want to use any Salesforce features. What you have figured it out, like the development, if I have to do it in Salesforce, it would be much more complex. And in the other languages, it's more easy. Like suppose like your file processing. File processing, the Salesforce doesn't have much capabilities, but you have Python and other languages which do the image processing much better. So what I can do is like from Salesforce, I can do a API call to MuleSoft passing in that file data, and then I can again push that data from Heroku to Salesforce using Heroku Connect and make it work. So and talking about a different integration for integration, which middleware to use. So there are various factors to consider that, like what is the volume that you're looking, what kind of adapters are there, and so MuleSoft is an industry solution, which is like you can use it for ETL, you can use it for data means putting the integration as well. It's more point and click. And for other system like other middlewares like Telboomi, it's not since Salesforce is purchased by means MuleSoft is purchased by Salesforce, the compatibility between MuleSoft and Salesforce will be much more higher compared to other platforms. Because both are owned by the same company, so they would obviously want like the integration is seamless so that it's more beneficial to the customer. So that's my take on that. But if you want a particular use case, that could be possible with multiple vendors, like Delboomi can also do that, Talent can also do that, MuleSoft can also do that. Then you have to drill down on like what capabilities you need and what are your deciding factors. Like either is it like the cost, is it the level of compatibility that it has, And then it's like what kind of support each of them offers. So there's like multiple things that you will have to think through while you are actually doing that purchase decision. I hope like that answers your question, I guess, Ritesh.
Yes, yes.
So means for few for customers, it's more around the cost. For few customers, it's around how much compatibility is there in. For few, it's around like they're using a particular use case. Whoever is able to fulfill in least cost, they go by that. Few that have like criteria as they like how much level of support the other provides. So it's around that. So this is your batch class with all of call outs. Like you have, I've implemented this, and then here I'm doing a call out. To the send request. http.send. So this is around your batch data synchronization. I hope that is clear.
Yes.
Now from the batch data synchronization, we are moving to remote calling. This is interesting. Uh, like here, I don't want to hit the API. It is an inbound call, like what you're saying, Ritesh, yeah, participant are earlier. That it would be like I don't know when the other system would be ready and it should be hitting it. Like suppose my criteria is as soon as an order is fulfilled in my Salesforce, the order status should get updated to fulfilled. So this would be a remote calling because the trigger point, like order fulfillment is happening in an external system. So it would have the trigger point that when it should be updating my Salesforce database. So this is we call it as your remote calling. And then another way, sometimes we call it like web server hooks as well. A very closely associated word, web hooks. Let's go over this because this is important. Like you give them the endpoint and then let it hit. The another other system would be available. It would just hit this API and you don't have to do anything. The basic use case is like the trigger point is in the external system. I don't know in Salesforce when this would happen. I can't do the polling because it would be quite inefficient. So doing the using this feature remote call in, I will give them the endpoint. Like when you are done, please hit it. It's kind of saying it like whenever you are ready, just give me a call. So the example scenarios are like what I said, like whenever the customer update, customer feedback is collected through the app, like it should update the Salesforce case records as well. Or even you can take it like if the other system means whenever a particular record is say like subscribed, like whenever marketing in the emails that you receive, like you get that unsubscribe button. Whenever you click that unsubscribe button in your Salesforce as well, like your field unsubscribe becomes true. So that is your remote calling because there will be an inbound call from Marketing Cloud or any other market or to Salesforce saying that this is the field that has to be updated, and the trigger point was in another system. So this is your remote calling. Any questions so far? Yeah, so this is around your means remote calling. So example scenarios are there, and now the real use cases like we create a web service and get that hit. So whatever you use, like REST APIs, like standard REST APIs, whatever are there in, like Salesforce provides, like another system, external system, just hit use that one and it does the update in Salesforce. So that is your remote call-in. Very much useful. Ideally, like Salesforce says, like you for inbound integration, don't write an Apex class at all. Try to use those out of the box APIs that are available wherever possible, so that the cost is means the time is increased, means the time is reduced. I would say like time is means what I mean is like the time is you are able to save the time in the long duration. So this is around our remote call-in. The next is UI update based on data update. So I will give you a very practical example. Like suppose if you make any payment, you get a QR code that is being shown. Now you scan that one and make the payment. As soon as your payment is done, automatically the page gets refreshed. So that is your UI update based on data update. Means it's indirectly being kind of like it's a publisher subscriber model. Some one place it's there, the other subscribe, and whenever it's updated, then the other system knows. So for those, the very relevant means scenario means the features are like CDC, your platform events, streaming API. So these are kind of very simplest example of your UI data update based on data, UI update based on data update. Yeah. So this is around that. Any practical use cases around the payment or whenever sales opportunity is created, like multiple systems are notified at the same time. That is another use case. I assume like there's no doubt. If there's any doubt, please let me know. Push notification is like you have to enable like the custom notification. It's a like custom notification is like you will have to create a separate notification. 1 second. In the notification builder, you have to configure that. And then in your flow, lightning flow, you will have to mention like this is the flow. So I assume means this is like a custom notification. Now in your regular flows, like I will be not actually running it, but I will just show you like where this option is available. Like this is your auto launch flow. So one such scenario that we were talking about is your custom notification. So the push notification to enable push notification, you will have to create your custom notification that you will have to enable in your org, and then you can use these actions to create those. Here you have to mention the ID as well, then the body title and all of those things. So this is how it would be done in, and like as I mentioned, like sometimes like if you would have noticed, like if two people are working on the same case record as well, then the you one person would get a pop-up like another, it seems that the person is also working on this item. So that is again your example of your streaming API. So that's around this UI data update. most common instead of this scenario, the best scenario is like you're making the actual payment. Now the last one is around your data virtualization. Data virtualization means I don't want this data inside Salesforce. And the reason being like why I don't want to do that is because like if I copy the data, then there are chances like I won't know what is the right set of which is the correct source. And in one system, if it's updated, it won't be reflected another system by default. I will have to get that data, I mean, do that integration. So instead, the better way is like I just get the data in runtime. Or what I mean to do so, there are two ways to do that. One is like your Salesforce Connect, like you connect an external system with Salesforce, and then you get the tabs and those schema already created inside of Salesforce where the data engine you means your data you will be able to access only through the API. So this is your data virtualization where, or also another option like Salesforce Connect, we are all familiar. We are also know about the mashups as well, but there's also something known as Canvas. Canvas app actually what it means is like the login is happening like this is the regular app. Like if someone who has worked on the Aloha, they would be able to relate to that very easily. I'm creating a sample one. I'll be not creating the entire community, but what I would be doing in is like I will show you like how does it actually look like. So you get a fair idea like this one. Like you get this application. So whenever you click on each of that, that will be open inside Salesforce only. This page would still be inside your community, and then when you click that one, you're logged in that external application from your Salesforce URL itself. So that is the power of your canvas. So that I wanted to highlight. Mostly scenarios that I have worked so far is around your mashups and your Salesforce Connect. Mashups means you do an API call at runtime. Your Salesforce Connect like automatically Salesforce will do it for you. So I assume like all the things are covered so far. You are clear with all of those. If any doubts, let me know. With this, like after data virtualization, we are coming to the closure of this session. So we have covered all of the integration patterns. We covered like what are the practical use cases, which are the normal ones which we use. The important part is always like ask the like while doing the integration, always make sure like you understand what are the capabilities that the external system has. It's not always recommended to hit the Salesforce image, hit the external system from Salesforce. Sometimes it's better like you let the other system hit it inside of Salesforce. So you'll have to consider all the scenarios, like considering the volume, like what the API support that the external system has. So and then make your decision. So with that, like we are closing this session.